keep a list up on the wall of all the schools that they serve. And so we kind of keep their wall up for them. All right, okay. There's only one reason to be in business. What is the reason to be in business? Okay, we'll say, okay, I make $1 million, but it cost me $2 million to make it. Is that good? No. The only reason to be in business is to
Make profit.
make a profit. Thank you. Profit. Now remember I said it's not always about the money. I was teaching a guest lecture in a college class about 10, 15 years ago, and I come in and one of the students says, Dr. Wayne, what's the purpose for being in business? And I says, to make a profit. And he says, well, Dr. Wayne, according to our book and our teacher, that's not it. It's to provide a needed social service for the community. I says, no. Because if a business doesn't make a profit, what happens to that business? Closes down. So it can't provide that product. I don't care if it's a non-profit business. A profit is basically defined as having more money come in than you spend. Very good. More money come in than you spend. That's a profit. So every business has to be profitable. We're just to the point that just quite break even. So every business is in business to make a profit. How you use that business defines you. One of my boards somewhere. How you use that business defines you as a company. I know I've got one of them. And there's a couple things I do want you to memorize. Okay. One is companies change, and change because their customers change. How many buggy whip manufacturers are you aware of? If you wanted to buy a buggy whip, would you know where to go buy one right now? I mean, that was probably one of the most common things sold in just pretty much every store. Buggy whips. Don't have them anymore. And companies that didn't make changes are no longer in business. Okay. I'm going to give you a list of some companies. World's largest corporation company back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Anybody know the name of it? Anybody can talk? You're doing pretty good. Come on, guys. Come up with some names. Give me the name of the company. Late 1800s, early 1900s. Ford. That's a good one. Actually, they did get up pretty close up there. The largest one at the point was A&P. What was A&P? Some of y'all might still shop there. The Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company. Grocery store. Started late 1800s. They, in fact, federal government and many state governments did everything they could to litigate against them because they were getting too big. They're running all these small businesses out of business. And A&P opened up, all the small grocery stores just folded up and left. There's no way they could compete with them because they got their price down so low. And they did what they needed to do. And here's the thing. You're going to memorize this one, so write this one down. You have to meet your customers' changing needs profitably. Your customer needs will change. Meet your customers' changing needs profitably. Your customers' needs are going to change. Meet your customers' changing needs profitably. Customers' needs are going to change. In high school, for my daughters for high school, they're 30, see, they're born 79, 81, So we're what, 33, 32, no, 35, 34. Big thing there was pagers. You know what a pager is? Little thing goes beep, 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 beep. And the, it's a little box, button on it, little display on the top that showed numbers. Cost them, I think it was about $40 a year. And they were able to send messages back and forth to all their friends. They just had to find a phone to do it. This is before cell phones. And what they ended up doing was coming up with these elaborate codes, like 1, 2, 6, 8, 4, 12, 14, 8, 30, whatever. This means I want to meet you at the whatever after 5. It's just amazing the codes they came up with on those things. Sometimes they would take the letter and correspond that with the number of an alphabet and do all those things. It just was incredible. But the pagers went away because of cell phones. Cell phones are going away because of smartphones. If you don't keep up with what's going on, you're out of business. Now, A&P, great concept, did everything, just doing it all the right way, but they failed to make one major change. One thing that fouled them up and threw them out of business. I'm talking about the world's largest company at the time. What happened at the end of World War II when soldiers came home? And where did they live?
Military base.
Nope. Nowhere. Before the war, where did everybody live? Lived on one of two places. They lived on a farm or in the city. Third option develops. It's the third option. What?
Government built houses and like this.
Government didn't. But what do you call them? Suburbs. Yeah, suburbs started developing. People started moving out. They wanted some land for their kids. Wanted to be able to have a backyard, have a dog. And so they had a little bit of money. They had the GI Bill. And so they started moving into the suburbs. Now, but A&P, one of the things that helped A&P tremendously through the Depression era is they didn't have any lease on any of their buildings that was over 1 year old. They only would sign leases 1 year at a time. And in these suburbs, what every one of y'all have, 2 or 3 places around your subdivision.
Grocery stores.
What?
Grocery store.
Grocery store. What's along with the grocery store? Might be a gas station. What else?
Shopping center, like strip
Tell me some things in there. What's a grocery store? How about a nail salon?
Barbershop.
Barbershop?
Electronics store.
A what?
Electronics store.
Okay, it might be an electronics store, but bicycle store. Used to have a Blockbuster there, right?
Laundry.
Laundry, very good. A dry cleaner. So what you have is you have these little strip centers that we're developing. Well, when people were building these strip centers, they weren't willing to take a 1 year lease. They wanted a 20-year lease. And A&P says, no. We've been through this before. We're not doing 20-year leases. And so they stayed inside the cities. What happened to the population in the cities?
They increased.
It what?
Decreased.
Decreased, because people were moving to the suburbs. And you had more business moving into the cities, so some of that residential area there was being taken over by businesses. And so A&P lost their customer base. And so Kroger and Publix and all these other places, yeah, we'll sign a 20-year lease. We want to be there. If you notice on these strip centers, that grocery store is your probably primary main tenant. It's the biggest place, right? That's one that draws the traffic in. If you notice now when they build a Walmart, they also build all these other things around it, bring them in there. Notice that? It's not just a Walmart standing by itself. It's usually a couple hundred stores that go in that one particular area because Walmart's driving that traffic, bringing it there. Okay, so A&P got kicked out by this one. Sears. Probably one of the best companies to work for. During the Depression, They paid their employees' salaries. They kept them going. Sears started out from one guy selling pocket watches at a train station. And they got to be a reputable dealer, and people said, well, do you have anything else? So he added a couple more things, and a couple more things, and a couple more things. Now he puts out a catalog and gets some funding and starts up this Sears retail chain. World's largest corporation. In fact, one of the things that they did is they built a phenomenal number of houses, primarily through their catalog system. And what would happen is you'd get a Sears catalog wherever you lived in the United States, delivered to you. It'd be nice and thick, and people would look through it. And they would order stuff, so they would send a letter to Sears saying, I want to buy this. And one of the office buildings that Sears had in Chicago had thousands of people in it that did nothing but open envelopes and fill orders. In fact, they had a train going through the middle of the building that they would load up. So the idea was to get that letter in there, get it open, and get the stuff on the train as quick as possible. Do you realize that in just 4 days, you could have anything you wanted out of a catalog? 4 days, maybe 5. And a lot of people bought houses. And so this railroad car would show up to your location that you asked for it, and they would dump it all out. Here's the nails, here's the paint, here's the wood. In fact, there are some subdivisions still, I think, in the Chicago area that are all Sears homes bought out of a catalog. It was fascinating. And so they kept, building and building and growing. They used the two biggest technologies of the day, which was mail and trains, to get themselves to be the largest company in the world. Mail and trains. I want to think about that. I'm going to write that one down. So the technology they took care of was mail and trains. All right. Now, Sears, climate's starting to change. People got a little bit more money. Sears decided, you know what? We know what our customers want. And so Sears tried to say, okay, we're going to upscale. We're going to carry expensive stuff and do some things. This is where our customers are going. These are becoming, getting more money. And guess what? Who decides what the customer wants? Say it loud. The customer. The customer tells you what you want. You don't tell the customer what you want. The customer tells you what they want. And Sears says, oh no, we are Sears, the world's largest company. We know what the customers want. And guess what? Customers started leaving. And this little upstart company, SS Cready, it's a 5 and dime. What's a 5 and dime? Boy, I tell you, it gets harder every year doing this. 5 and dime is basically where I used to shop. It was a little kind of a department store. I mean, real small, a couple 4,000 square feet, 5,000 square feet. If you go to a general store in a real small town, that'd be like a 5 and dime in a sense. You get a little bit of everything there. It's kind of the general store. And SS Cready was one. And Cready says, you know what? Customers' needs are changing. We need to make a change. So we need to start offering larger stores, and we need to start offering stuff to people at a discount. Not the standard high markup rates. Markup rates were typically about 50 to 80%. So something cost 10 cents, they would sell it for 20 cents or 25 cents. And so stuff is pretty pricey. And so they started a division, SS Cready. What division do you think they started? You all know the name, you see them. Got one letter. Come on, guys! One letter. K-Mart, thank you. K-Mart. And K-Mart was willing to go into smaller areas. Here's saying, there's not enough volume there for us to do that. We're not going to go into the small towns. So K-Mart was willing to go into the small towns. And they kicked Sears in the teeth. Now what was interesting is the next person that came up, both Sears And Kmart looked at them, studied them, and both came up with the same conclusion: this will never work. This business plan is flawed. It will only work in very rural, farm-oriented communities. Ain't not much population there. Who's the guy that kicked both these businesses to the curb? Walmart. Sam Walton. So Kmart and Sears knew about it. They studied it and says it's not going to work, and he just kicked them to the curb. No mercy. Right now, Walmart sales are about $700 billion, between $600 and $700 billion per year. I mean, it's a pretty good size group. This is taking on the board, isn't it? You're not moving back and forth there. All right. So Walmart came, and this is kind of your progression here. But then you have other companies. World's largest auto manufacturer 20 years ago was who? Huh?
Toyota.
Nope.
Ford.
Nope. Nope.
Chevy.
What's the name of the Chevy
GM.
company?
GM.
General Motors. World's largest one. And General Motors got to the point that they tried to dictate customer needs. This is what you want. No, that's not what I want. I want this. And the one thing with, when you bought cars from American auto manufacturers in the 60s and 70s, Consumer Report was out at that time. What they would do is they would buy one, and they would tell you how many defects the car had. And the average number of defects seems to be about a dozen or so. My first car I bought, brand new car, was a 1970 Dodge Challenger, banana yellow. It's a pretty car. It had one option on it, heavy duty battery. Cost me an extra $10. Car cost me $1,849, new, off the showroom floor. And I tell you, I had one problem after I think I went through 3 front windshields, 2 back windows, entire electrical system. I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time, going to school there. I'm on Constitution Avenue, middle of rush hour. I put my foot on the gas pedal, and nothing happens. Nothing. So, pull the hood up. There was this one that cars had carburetors. Looking at the linkage to the carburetor. The linkage from the gas pedal to the carburetor was held together with paper clips. So about 4 or 5 months after the car had been through all the salt and all the stuff, the paper clips just kind of dissolved. That's how bad American cars were. The money that they had to spend on that stuff. And then another company came out and just went from probably the lowest ranking to the highest ranking in just a few years. And that would be who? Toyota. Toyota just really kicked these people to the curb. Because they came out with something called quality. And they did what customers wanted. They listened to the customers. And in doing so, GM was too proud of themselves to listen to customers. They went down. They'll do the same thing with all the airlines. World's largest airline at one point was TWA. And they're no more. Eastern Airlines. They're no more. If you don't meet your customers' changing needs profitably, you're going to go out of business. How many of y'all do any banking right now? Your parents, how do they do their banking?
What do you,
Their banking, looking at their banking accounts, doing stuff. Do they go to a building,
No.
or they do it at home?
Yeah, home to them.
You know, one of the interesting things is that Bank America is the first one that came out with online banking. Guys, I hope y'all writing all this stuff down. Came out with online banking. And it cost them millions and millions of dollars to do it. And all the other banks says, you know, we're just not ready to invest all that money in online banking. It's just, people come to us, you know, we'll keep the price down, but no, it's just, we don't want to spend $20, $50, $100 million to do online banking. You know, we don't know if the internet's going to be around there for much longer. This thing's just a fad. You know, what's going to end up happening? Well, people started using online banking and liked it. What happened to the customers for, say, Wells Fargo or Citizen Southern or any of these other places. What happened with them?
They lost them.
They what?
They lost.
Left.
They left and went where? Bank of America. So now companies are looking and saying, oh, we're losing our customers. So what do you think the next choice is?
They.
Online banking, very good. Either that or they could blame, and some of them did, they just blamed everybody else until they went out of business. This is a fad, it's going to go away. People aren't going to want to do that. That's too risky. So, you know, Bank of America started. Here's the interesting thing. When companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars to make changes in their products, do they do it just to meet the needs of their customers? Trick question. Do they do it to meet the needs of their customers?
No.
No, they do it why? Because of the, somebody said it, begins with C,
Competition.
competition. The competition gets out there and says, we're going to put this in, we're going to do it. Why would a company want to change all their stuff? They don't have to. It's working right. We're making money. Okay, guys, let's just leave it right where it is. You don't need to make those changes. Let's stay still. Then you take a look at McDonald's. First time I went to McDonald's, probably 56, 57 was when I was first at the McDonald's. And your choices were hamburgers, cheeseburgers, you get orange, Coke, I think it was 7-Up, fries, milkshakes. And if I remember, it was pretty much their entire menu. Would they be able to survive if that's their menu today?
No.
What changes is McDonald's making in its menus?
There's
A lot of chicken, breakfast. In fact, when they came out with breakfast, it ended up becoming the world's largest producer of breakfast. It was amazing. They were so large at that point. In fact, when they wanted to introduce a cherry pie, they couldn't introduce a cherry pie. They had to do a mixed pie for about a year or two until enough cherries were being able to be raised to take care of it. But what's their big focus these days? Go up and you look at the board. What do you see up there besides the items?
Drive-through.
No, you're looking at the board. You're inside.
Oh,
What do you see on that board besides the name of the item?
the prices.
pictures of price.
Price.
No, yeah, you see the price. Okay, besides the price and the item, what do you see? Not variety. What? Number of calories. Thank you, dear. Thank you. Number of calories. Notice that. And all these other people are fighting it, but McDonald's says, you know what? It's going to come sooner or later. Why don't we put it up there? And I tell you what, it does make it change my decision on what stuff to buy now at McDonald's. I used to own a Burger King. And anytime we asked my daughters, where do y'all want to go out to eat, they would say McDonald's. And so we'd have to slap them around a little bit. I would get to do that. But twice a week now, I take my granddaughters to McDonald's. Because their playroom and things like that. Burger King just never saw it. In fact, when I owned a Burger King franchise, 2077 in Rock Springs, Wyoming. And I can remember getting a letter from Burger King Corp saying, you know what, McDonald's has won the kids market, we're going to give in, and we're going to concentrate on the adult market. What happened to kids? Huh? I'm sorry, what? No, what happened to kids? What happens to kids? They grow up, and they have what? They don't go to Burger King, where do they go? Especially when they have what?
Kids.
When they have kids, they go to McDonald's, right? So it's kind of interesting as how some decisions they made, and this Burger King guy, I mean, he is the strangest looking. He scares me on that one, but I can't figure out what it is. But, you know, Burger King, older than McDonald's, been around longer, not anywhere near the size of McDonald's, and people have no idea what they have to sell, other than the Whopper and fries. You can always get those two out of them, but everything else is pretty much up for grabs. So they change their product menus so fast. McDonald's done all sorts of stuff. Does McDonald's sell pizza? They used to. They tried and found out they couldn't get it to work in their system. What's the newest entree into the fast food breakfast market these last 6 months? Taco Bell. I don't know how people are going to take on that. It'll be interesting to watch that one, see where that one goes.
Pretty good.
But they realized, so you've been there?
Yeah, it's really
Been
good.
more than once?
It's better, yeah, better than the other.
Okay, well, interesting. But what's kind of interesting is that Wendy's tried it for a while and couldn't get it to work. There's an occasional Wendy's here or there that will have one, but by and large, they couldn't get it to work. McDonald's, when they first came out, was brilliant because we already got all these stores, all this stuff there. Place is closed. Why not open up a little bit earlier? And we do that. All right. Okay, so we kind of went down our list here, right? The big things there. And are you getting kind of an idea of what it's all about? It's always about the what?
Customers.
Customers. Here's one other thing you got to memorize. You got to memorize this one. Meet your customers' changing needs properly, so your customers' needs are going to change. The second one is nothing happens until a customer makes a purchasing decision. Nothing happens until a customer makes a purchasing decision. Nothing happens until a customer makes a purchasing decision. You could have the best product, the best price. You could have everything. But the customer doesn't buy from you, it's for naught. Nothing happens until a customer makes a purchasing decision. Make sure you memorize that one. So that one's, we'll talk about this. You take any kids from my classes in the past year, if they've had entrepreneurial ventures, ask them, they should always be able to repeat those two things. And those are the things that we're going to take a look at. Is how do we get that customer to give us their money? That's what we want. We want them to give us their money. Remember we talked about contracts a little bit last week. Offer, acceptance, consideration. Consideration is, they give us their money and we give them our product. Is McDonald's a really fancy, highbrow place to eat? No. They just have basic decent food, right? You know what you're going to get every time you go. That's one of the reasons why people do it. Plus, my grandkids love it because they can play on the slide, they can make a mess. You got a big hose there, you just hose it all down. Away you go. But sometimes you just want that. It's a reasonable price, meets the needs. Would I rather go to Longhorn for lunch? Yeah, that would be what, 20 or 30 bucks. Versus McDonald's, where I can get a McDouble for $1.19 and a large iced tea or pop for $1. So for $2 and about 27 cents, I can get out of there pretty cheap. I think my grandkids, they like stuff that's on the floor, so I like to eat all the fries off the floor, so that takes care of that one. Yeah. How my kids or grandkids ever survived, I have no idea. In fact, these are my girls. So 2 daughters, 2 granddaughters, and my wife. So it was kind of the reason for me to do everything. I am just so blessed with my family. All right. Okay, any questions on any of this? We'll go a little bit longer today, so I want to be able to give you a quiz tomorrow. And I think tomorrow we'll do this with a quiz, and I'll do a Shark Tank. Yeah, we'll get into some of the other things. All right, everybody got this? All right. Now, actually, let's kind of talk about the history of business in a sense. Thomas Friedman wrote a book He's actually an op-ed writer for the New York Times. And he wrote a book called The World is Flat. what he was talking about is how the world has changed tremendously. Bill Gates, about 20 years ago, made a comment. You know, if you had a choice between being a genius in Shanghai or just a middle class student in Poughkeepsie, everything favors the middle class kid in Poughkeepsie versus the genius in Shanghai. But with the computer now out there, the internet out there, it's reversed. The kid in Poughkeepsie is going to be work at a Walmart as a greeter, or you've got to start excelling because jobs are being shifted away tremendously. He was mentioning about somebody breaking a leg up in Bangor, Maine, and the X-rays were red in Mumbai, India. That's where the on-call radiologist was for the little hospital up there in Bangor, Maine. So distance means nothing. Distance has gone away. I can remember in 4th grade reading about England and world history, and wow, I'd never be able to get there. And then I'll talk to you about it later, but I made a speech at the Royal Society of Medicine in London. Incredible. It's how quickly now we can get different places. How many of you all have been outside the country this year? When I asked that, probably about 10 years ago, maybe one. Okay. So he says there's 3 globalization efforts. Globalization 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. We're going to kind of go through this. Make sure you take some good notes on this one, guys, okay? So, how the world globalized. Globalization 1.0 is when countries went global. Countries. Give me a year of this. When countries decide to go global and expand. Give me a year. A year.
1990.
No. Give me a year. When countries decide to go global, expand their empires. CC. Do CC. Come on, guys. 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Okay, you had Spain, Portugal, Italy, Great Britain, all sending ships out. Now, big surprise when they landed here in the New World, and the people here says, we're not lost. Well, yes, you are. We've come to find you. They just kind of took over everything. So, countries went global. Now, what was the big technology they used to do that? Ships. Correct. It held lots of people. Now, the main technology was the ships. Putting those sails up, being able to capture the wind. They just didn't have to sit there forever. And then had everything they needed on it. Now, what are a couple of little things that had to be invented and stuff first before all this would happen? Okay, navigation would be a good one. What else? Huh? So compass, navigation, all this stuff together. What else? What's the number one thing they had to have?
What?
Food. Very good. Because you use sailors, right? What was the number one cause of disease and death on ships? Scurvy. There's not enough vitamin C, right? And so they figured, how do we do this? How do we keep these crews alive for months on end? I mean, navigation was important, but at least they could just use the sun. Okay, we're going to go that way. But food was very important. Being able to take it and salvage it and use it. Keeping the food sources available for the sailors. Okay? Now, globalization 2.0 is when countries went global. Companies. Give me a time period. What do we call this period of time? IR. Very good. Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution. So we're going to say, the 1800s. Industrial Revolution. Companies started going. And what was the underlying technology that allowed companies to do this?
Steel or
You're almost, you got the first 2 letters right. Trains don't begin with ST.
I didn't,
Okay.
steel.
ST.
Steam. What is it?
Huh? What? Steam. 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 And then coming behind it, other technologies would be the, being able to cast iron into steel, being able to do those things. But steam. Because now you have power to do things. And where before you had, here's a hat pin maker. A good hat pin maker could make 100 to 1,000 hat pins a day. 100 to 1,000 hat pins a day. A machine operated by a couple of folks could make 100,000 hat pins in a day. What happened to the price of hat pins? Dropped substantially, right? Or if you get 1,000 of them for this cost, but now you get 100,000 at this cost, price drops. Look, what happened to the number of hat pin makers? That dropped too, because they didn't need near as many of them, right? And so they'd find employment elsewhere. But employment was growing because there's so many things that are going on. And so steam led the way. You had steam engines, steam trains, steamboats, revolutionized everything and allowed companies now to take their goods and services and trade them all over the world. Now, the third major globalization effort, Globalization 3.0, happened when people went global. When do people go global? Very good. Internet is what we want. Internet's the underlying technology. This is going to be about, figure, the 1900s. I mean, the 1990s. 1990s, 2000s, when people decided to go global. Now, some people say it was computers. No, we had computers for thousands of years. Computer is just something that helps you make some calculations. Electronic computer does it billions of times faster. But the thing that made this all work was the internet. Because it connected all these little computers up together and let people talk to people. It made a huge difference. And then, what is the underlying technology behind the internet? Think of it. Underlying technology behind the internet.
Fiber cables.
Huh?
Fiber cables.
Very good. Fiber optics. Fiber. You all seen that fiber plant there on Jimmy Carter in '85? Yes or no? No, big fiber optic plant there. It was the world's largest fiber optic plant there. In fact, I got a contract from AT&T at one point to teach how to start your own business classes. They paid me $120 an hour to teach classes from midnight to 4 a.m. because you're getting ready to lay off all their employees. What was interesting with fiber optics is that when it came out, fiber optics uses what to transfer information? Light. And so they put this fiber optic in and it increased the ability to transfer information phenomenally. I mean, it was incredible the amount that they could put through it. Well, so they're laying all this stuff in, people spending billions of dollars to put all these fiber cables in around the world. And then some guy comes up and I think, you know what? We're going to use color light. So now what was happening is they were able to increase the amount of information going to that cable, like 5, 8, 10-fold. Well, you don't need as many cables now, right? So what ended up happening is two things happen. One is price drops to try and bring in more customers. And the second thing is a lot of people just went bankrupt. So here are all these fiber optic networks sold for 10 cents on the dollar. New companies came in. And so they're developing the market, getting more customers, trying to do some more things. And then some other idiot figures out, we could packetize all this stuff, send little packets, and actually overlap them and do this and do that, and you'll know where to go. And they increased the fiber optic capacity by about another 10-fold. So what happened to all those people? They went bankrupt. And they because the ones that could hold on just kept dropping prices to get more customers. The other ones ended up leaving. So now, those people sold it for 10 cents on the dollar. So now, the original networks in there sold for 1 cent on the dollar. A lot of people lost a lot of money on fiber optics. Why? Because technology was still increasing what it could do on that. So, but the thing is, you know, to the point that it costs basically a penny or so to call India. When I was in high school back in the mid-60s, I had a pen pal in England, and my mother gave me enough to be able to, for a birthday present, to call her for 3 minutes. Like $6 a minute. That'd be the equivalent right now of about $20, $25 a minute to call. That was just to England. That was the closest place. India was probably somewhere, you know, $50 a minute to make a call. Now it's less than a cent a minute. You ever call anybody on the phone? Hi, my name is Michael, and they got a stranger that you know they're in India. Always ask, where are you at? The two biggest call center locations for us here in the U.S. are where? India and,
China.
not China, Philippines. In fact, just an interesting point of view, do you, a while back, one of the companies was using a particular movie, and if the people could translate the movie, they played it in English, and if they could understand what the people were saying, they gave them a job. Anybody any idea what the movie was?
Gone with the Wild.
Nope,
Forrest Gump.
nope. Before Forrest Gump. Rambo. Oh, what was the one, where's the fighter? Rocky, I'm sorry, Rocky Balboa. Rocky, because if you look at there, all have the Philadelphia accent stuff. That was the test. And if they could tell people what these folks were saying in English, for that, they got the job. So watching Rocky Balboa was the test of not whether or not you could work in that arena. But the two biggest call centers are going to be Philippines and India. All right. I'm going to stop here today. Any questions about any of these things? Globalization 10, 20, 30. You guys, you're going to see this stuff a lot. Understand, know the underlying technologies for those would allow that to happen, and then the underlying technology that allows those technologies to happen. Those things are going to be very important. So get back to your groups, and if you need to tighten up any of your agreements and stuff, if you please do that, I'd be most appreciative.